Next, we have documenting our findings, actions, and outcomes. And doing our documentation, even though it's our last step, documentation is what we're doing throughout our entire process. If we wait until the very end to do all our documentation, then who's to say we don't forget a couple steps that we did, or forget an exact input or an exact line that we entered in. So we need to be doing documentation throughout our entire process. So we should be documenting from the start, and we want to document everything, not just the problem and the solution. We need to document symptoms, causes, all of our troubleshooting steps, any other issues we discovered, and our resolution. So we're documenting our symptoms. We're documenting what the user came to us with, and they said, oh, this is the issue that I'm having, and we document all their different symptoms. We document what we thought that the issue was, and what the background for the problem was, and the different causes that we tried, and even the ones that failed. So our documentation is a very important fact and a very important component of troubleshooting, and our documentation is something that we want to do very well. So when we're doing documentation, we're not just doing documentation for ourselves. We're doing documentation for someone else who may encounter it later. Say if we have a ticketing system and a database that someone can refer to, then they may experience the issue 2 years later and need to pull our documentation. So because of that, we want to avoid skipping steps. We want to avoid putting in slang or acronyms that may not be understood by other people. So we want to make sure that our documentation is very clear and it's very pointed and it's very step-by-step and very detailed. Now, even if we escalate our documentation, even if we escalate our problem, we may want to keep track of that documentation. You may know about police departments that have their cold case file. Well, if you work on a help desk, you may do something that I enjoy doing, which is keeping your own cold case file. You say, okay, I worked on this issue, I tried troubleshooting it, I tried my best, I got really involved with this and I did a lot of research, but I still couldn't figure it out, so I had to escalate the issue. So I'm going to just take that ticket number, I'm going to take that identification number, and I'll just, if my standard operating procedure allows this, I'm going to take that identification number and I'm just going to, create a Word document called my cold cases, and I'll put that ticket number in there. And then maybe I'll wait a week, I'll wait 2 weeks, or I'll wait until I have a little bit of time where I have, my ticket queue is cleared out, or I have a little bit of downtime, and I'm going to open up that cold case file and I'm going to say, okay, let me search for this ticket number. Let me see what happened, what the resolution was. And as I'm going through that cold case file, I may say, okay, well, that's not something I can fix. That was a network interface card problem. I don't have the permissions to replace hardware. So I know next time I'm seeing these symptoms, that might be this issue. Okay, that's something I can't fix. That's a network problem. I would have had to escalate that anyway. And then you say, oh, wait, here's something a person was having. Here's an issue someone was having. And the next person I escalated this to just did a configuration change on the person's computer. So then you can take your cold case file, you can consider that one solved, and you can put in your tips and tricks, you can create a document where you put in, okay, if I'm seeing this same type of issue, one thing I may want to check is this. Because I followed this file, I followed my cold case, and I found that after I escalated it, the person who put in a solution put in that it was this, and that I could fix this myself next time. So that's another reason why we want to have good documentation as well. Maybe we have someone else who escalated this issue to us who's following their cold case. So we don't want to put in our solution that we fixed the problem, because that's not going to help anybody. If there's someone out there who, is aspiring to do what our department does, or is maybe trying to improve their ability to solve issues and not have to escalate issues as much, they're following the ticket and they're like, okay, well, let me see what this next person is going to do. Let me see if they're going to fix the problem. And you go in, you say, oh, okay, I just need to change this configuration setting here. And then you say, okay, well, I'm going to close out this ticket, and in the documentation, I'm going to put change network configuration, solve the problem. Again, that's not helping anybody. You're going to still get tickets for that same issue. But if you put in a good detailed solution and someone's following that, then they'll say, oh, okay, they went into their network settings, then they went to change adapter settings, then they selected IPv4, and then they checked and they made sure that all of those IPv4 settings were correct. I can do that myself next time. And then after a couple weeks, you may notice, hey, I'm not getting tickets for this issue as much, or I'm not getting as many escalations from this particular person, because your solution that you put in, they were able to follow, and they were able to prevent from having to escalate issues to you. So documentation helps everybody. So make sure that we do documentation well. We do very detailed and very clear documentation, and we'll be able to not only refer to it later, but we'll be able to pass it around to everybody and help solve issues faster. So thank you for joining us here today on Cybrary.it. Today we talked about our different troubleshooting steps and our troubleshooting methodology and how we go through troubleshooting and how we use troubleshooting to solve issues properly. We talked about how we identify issues, and we take those identified issues and we create a hypothesis and we test our hypothesis, and then we implement our potential steps or we escalate our solution. And we also talked about the importance of documentation and doing things like backing up our settings and our data. So hopefully you'll be able to take these troubleshooting steps, you'll be able to implement this troubleshooting methodology into your own troubleshooting steps, and you'll be able to go forward and be a better network technician, be a better computer technician, and solve issues more efficiently and solve them better.